Hello, and welcome to Simply Sacred, a loving gaze at the inner world in a modern society with your host, Aurora Leigh and Kaja Gjesdal. And we have our lovely guest, Brad Walsh, here today with Empowerography Podcast. So, really looking forward to our
Hello.
conversation.
Hello, Aurora. Hello, Kaya. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be here to share a little bit about the work I do, my story, my journey with your platform, with your audience. It is an absolute pleasure and honor.
Thank you. So for me, I have Simply Sacred Solutions. Kaya has Make Love to the World, and you have Empowerography Podcast. So together, we
Oh.
are
Oh,
empowering sacredly love in the world. I like that.
make love to the world?
I said make love to the world, yeah. Yeah, so today I thought we could talk a little bit about, your story, Brad, where you came to your vision of, wow, this is my purpose to support and lift women and women's stories and the work that they do. And I'd love to hear more
What
about
is
your
going on?
story and where that came from.
Yeah, so my journey began really, if I go back, it began in high school with my finding my true love, my first passion, that was photography. And I took a photography class in high school, and I learned how to shoot on black and white film and developing images in the darkroom and all of that wonderful fun stuff. And it just kind of grew from there. My love for photography continued to grow. I always had a camera with me, but I didn't want to photograph. I had no interest in photographing people. My thing was architecture and landscapes, and I would create and exhibit my art at art shows around Toronto as I got into that world in more of a part-time basis in terms of making a living at it. And while I was working in corporate, I worked for an accounting firm in the audiovisual department as an audiovisual tech. And that is where I discovered my love for photographing people. Actually, I fell in love with photographing people through doing the headshots for the corporation, and I just loved having the ability to connect with and to learn about people. And while they sat for their portrait, I could find out about who they are, what they do, and just connect with them on a different level. And then about 3 or 4 years following that, I was introduced through a mutual friend to a boudoir photographer, which then began my journey into women's empowerment. And I connected with this woman. I fell in love with the mission and the message behind that genre of boudoir photography. I loved being able to give back to human beings, being able to give back to women and help support women in that way through the photography. I ended up mentoring with this woman for 6 months, and when I finished my mentorship with her, it was just one of those. It was my first light bulb moment. I just knew that that's the direction I've got to take my business when I do make the jump to photography full time, which didn't happen for another 6 years. But during that time, I was working part-time. I was doing the art thing, but I was also doing free shoots for friends to learn and to hone my skill set of lighting and posing and all of those things in the boudoir photography genre. And I finally made the jump 6 years later. And, it just, that's where it all began for me. That's where it started. And my daughters are a huge part of this story. I have two daughters. They were aged 22 and 24. And both of them were bullied in elementary school. My youngest was bullied by both boys and girls, verbally and physically. My oldest was bullied by girls verbally. And for me, seeing them go through that, it was a tough couple of years. Of course, as a parent, that's a tough thing to go through with your kids. But when I take a step back and I look at that situation and I saw the effects that it had on them carrying through with them to the different stages of their lives, from elementary school to high school to now, even in their young adult lives, I still see the effects prevalent. And when I think about that on a grander scale or look at it through a wider lens, the fact that there are millions upon millions of young girls and women who go through that and deal with it on a daily basis, and that affects how they view themselves. They don't love themselves. They don't love their bodies. They don't feel confident in who they are. And I think that's absolutely heartbreaking that anyone should have to go through and deal with that in their life. And so with the photography piece of it in particular, my goal is to have my clients leave the studio feeling better than when they got there. I've had women come into their viewing sessions after their shoot and tell me that they can't believe that's them in the photographs. And that is the highest, the best compliment I could ever be paid. Then to know that I've had that kind of an impact and given back to another human being in that way is such a beautiful gift. They're giving me a gift in the way that I get to witness their transformation unfold right before my very eyes on the other side of the lens. And that is an incredible gift. And to know that I've been a part of that, transformation is beyond words. It's just incredible. And so in 2019, 2 years into my business full time, I started to feel like, albeit photography is my first love, I wanted to have more of an impact. I wanted to reach more people. And it wasn't giving me that through photography because, of course, the effects are very individualized. It's my clients and I who really feel the full effect of what we're doing together when we're creating that art, when we're having a session. And so I wanted to reach more people. And so I thought, why don't I take the values and the mission of the work I'm doing through the photography and turn that into a podcast where I focus the podcast solely on women. At the time, and even now, I don't know of many, if any, platforms out there that are hosted by a man that solely highlight and focus on uplifting and empowering women through sharing their stories, amplifying their voices, and helping with that aspect of it. And so I thought this is a great opportunity for me to carve out my own niche in the podcasting world. So I reached out to 7 or 8 friends of mine, women who were photographers, makeup artists, and I asked them if they would help me get the platform off the ground by letting me interview them. Thankfully, they all agreed. I did the interviews, I created the content, and I was publishing the interviews. And at that same time, I was in my second year full-time in the photography business, and the business started to pick up traction. I was getting more inquiries and more bookings. And I thought, well, I left my full-time job for a reason. I got to shift my energy back to the business. And so I shelved the podcast and put all of my energy, all of my time into the business. We then, of course, fast forward to March of 2020. Of course, we all know how that played out around the world. It stopped me from running my business. I couldn't be booking photo sessions during COVID. So I thought, instead of getting on the train with everyone complaining about what was going on in the world and being pissed off and angry about it, I thought, I'm going to take advantage of this gift of time that we've all been given. I'm going to put something good out into the world. I'm going to reignite the podcast. So my second light bulb moment, I started reaching out to women on Instagram, on Facebook, on the social media platforms, and again, explaining what my idea was behind the platform, what I wanted to do with it, my goals, and the response was just incredible. It was overwhelming, to be honest. I didn't expect that kind of a reception. The women were so happy to hear that a man had created a platform such as this to help elevate women and amplify their voices through sharing their stories, that it turned into this thing where the women I was interviewing were saying, Brad, I've got a friend, I'll introduce you to her. Brad, I'll connect you with this person. Brad, I'll introduce you to this woman, to where it's grown to this beautiful community that we now have, where I can honestly tell you with every fiber of my being and every bit of my heart and soul, this is my purpose. This is why I was put here on this planet, is to elevate women and amplify their voices through sharing their stories. Nothing has ever set my soul on fire like this work I do. I mean, photography, yes, that's my first love and my first passion, but not even that lights me up as much as the work I'm doing with the podcast, with the platform, with all the other things that are encompassed in the Empowerography brand. And the relationships and the friendships are hands down the best part of all of it. I have met some of the most incredibly inspirational, powerful women like yourself, Auroara, all the other women who are part of the community. It's been absolutely an incredible journey. And my mother and my grandmother are the foundation for all of it. They are the biggest piece. I was raised by those two women. My mom left my biological father when I was 10. He was running around on her having an affair. Back in those days, of course, the women were the ones who stayed home to raise the children while the husband was the one working. So when I look back at that situation as a grown adult male and thought about it and reflected back on it, and the fact that she had the strength and the courage and the resilience and the support, of course, of my grandparents, her parents, to stand up and say no more. After 15 years of marriage, she stood up and said, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't have to take this anymore. I am taking my boys and we're leaving. And we left with nothing but the clothes on our back. We moved into a 1-bedroom apartment, the same apartment building where my grandparents lived. And we moved into that 1-bedroom apartment. My mom slept on a couch. My brother and I shared the bedroom. And she had to get a job after being out of work for 10 years because she sacrificed and stayed home with us to give us that life, to have a mother around all the time. And so when she was at work, my grandmother would step in. So she was a second mother to me. So those two women, they're my heart, my soul. I wouldn't be who I am today without those two women. I owe them a massive debt that could never be repaid for all that they sacrificed and all that they did for me and taught me. And so these two women, of course, who are the foundation of it all, my mom, my wife, my daughters, these five women are why I do what I do. It's my way of saying thank you and giving back to women because of what these five women have brought to my life. And that's how I ended up in this world of women's empowerment.
That's so beautiful. Thank you. I see so many similarities in like my path, like of what your story is. Like I live across the street from my mother, um,
Mm-hmm.
who I was with a partner for 15 years, and then I'm single mom. My 10-year-old daughter she's been bullied so much from school. I was bullied. My other daughter was bullied. And yeah, just having the feminine, like, just connection
Mm-hmm.
of the resilience, and having to do it without a man, like that point, but having you as someone that empowers women and being a man
Mm-hmm.
to do that. Like I just want you to like to go viral, like completely, like let's all men, like look at how much
That,
work women do and how much mothers,
yeah.
and even the boudoir, like I mean that therapeutic photography in that way, I see
Mm-hmm.
it's like mirror work too, right? Like to self-love,
Yeah.
look at a woman, to look at yourself and be like, I'm beautiful, I love myself. And to have a man that's taking those photos, like there's so much vulnerability in that,
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
it, yeah, because I even see in my 10-year-old, like she doesn't feel beautiful. She says horrible things about herself. And my mom even just said the other day, I tried taking a picture of her, and she doesn't want to look in the camera. She doesn't want to see that. Like that kind of work, it's so beautiful what you're doing. I just think,
Thank you.
yeah, it's so
It
empowering.
It is. It's an incredible gift. I mean, I get to show these women themselves in a light that they don't normally get to see themselves in. And that is just incredible. And to see the difference from when they walk in the studio before the shoot. And of course, there's vulnerability there. They're basically standing in front of a stranger who in their underwear and bra. I mean, that's vulnerable. And but to see that transformation of change into who they are when they leave the studio, they're walking taller and more confident. You can just see it, you can feel it. And that is what it's all about, being able to give back and help a woman see who she truly is, help her step into her authenticity, see herself for the beautiful soul that she is.
Well, and
It's indescribable.
the fact that you do the visual and then the voice, right?
Mm,
That is so powerful because, there's so many layers of that with women, right? Like being,
yeah.
you have to look like this to be wanted. You have to look, this way. And then to be like, are you worthy of being heard, right? Like both of those things,
Hmm.
such deep wounds for so many women, right?
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right, 100%. And I get to give that gift in both ways, like you said, the visual and the audio, and it's just incredible to be able. I absolutely love it. It is.
I want to meet your mom.
It's just incredible. My grandmother, you'll have a hard time meeting her.
Oh,
She passed away
okay.
in 2020, unfortunately, sadly. But I know she's still here with me, always supporting me and guiding me. And thankfully, my mom is still here. So yeah, she's an amazing woman. She truly is.
So, what can the audience kind of anticipate that they could get from the podcast? So, what you're saying is women are sharing their stories.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the goal of the podcast, of the platform, is to provide this space for women to share their stories with the hope of helping, reaching, and inspiring as many women as we possibly can through sharing their stories. And that too is an incredible gift that I get out of it. Selfishly, I guess you could say, because I get invited into this space of all of these women, and it is an absolute honor, and I mean that with all of my heart. I am honored to be part of these women's stories. I compare it to being brought into each car, each of these women that are on my podcast, they're driving, they're allowing me into their vehicle, and we're driving, and they're taking me on the drive, on the journey through their life story. I'm in the passenger seat. I get to witness that. I get to be part of that. How fucking incredible is that? Like, that to me, that's amazing.
I'm curious what like your male friends feel like with what you're doing. You know, like how many conversations do you have with your group of men that where you're like, talking about women all the time, right? Or just, just how much power them and the stories. Like, I mean, if I'm hanging out with a bunch of like women, then I'd be talking about the stories. And then for men, yeah, like how is that with
They're some of them talk about it, some don't, and most of them are really proud and think it's amazing work that I'm doing. So it's encouragement for me. It's great. I love it. And I mean, they don't understand how being around women all the time. I mean, in a house with, well, my oldest doesn't live at home anymore, and my youngest just came back. So I've always been in a house with women. I was raised in a house with women. I live in a house with 3 other women. So I've just always been around it. And they know that because they've known, a lot of my friends have known me since I was younger. So they get it. But they're also, on the other hand, it's like, how you're around women all the time. Like, like what the hell? But they're very supportive, and they think it's great.
Yeah.
What do you think that, like, us as a society, humanity benefits from lifting the woman's voice? What do you see as a benefit to humanity?
I think when we all, women included, women, and first of all, I think that we need to stop this with the masculine versus feminine. There's no need for it. We're all human beings. We all have masculine and feminine qualities within us. So we need to embrace that and come forward as human beings and come together as humans and as a collective. That will help raise the vibration of the collective. If we come together as human beings and stop the competition with male versus female. And I know that that's a whole other episode. We could talk about the conditioning, the patriarchy, all that crap that women have had to put up with. And I get it. I understand to a certain degree. Obviously I can't fully understand. I'm not a woman, but I think that if we can get past all of that and come together as humans, that will help change. But when we support women, when we stand beside them shoulder to shoulder, when we support them, when we give them the support they need, I think that will create a huge ripple effect, starting at a community level, then society, then the world over. Because when we empower and stand beside and support women to be who they truly are, they become better mothers, better friends, better sisters, better daughters, all of it. It creates this huge ripple effect that will affect the world. They become more confident in who they are, stepping into their power, stepping into their authenticity. They perform better with their jobs, with their businesses. It is fucking huge if we could all do that, women included. Because when I first started the podcast, I heard a lot of women in the conversation I was having saying they're tired of the competition with other women, the cats, the clawing, and all of the shit that went along, the bad talk from other women, the competition.
Oh yeah.
There is no competition. Let's all come together and support each other. That's what we're all here for. If we all support each other, the world benefits.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like, who's mostly raising children? It's a lot
women, of course.
Women, right? And the fact that we don't, as a society, be like, support the women. Is there any women in your community? Single moms? Like, who needs help? Like, who needs that? Like, that's not where we are. That's where we need to be, because this is where when we're like, okay, where's the future of the planet going? And you're like, okay, well, who's the future of the planet? Oh, our children. Well, how are they doing? And I find it really interesting too, because in our society, there's a lot of like, separate, a child from, and it's like, wait a second, like that, it is the community, the village. Like, you have to have a healthy child, you have to have a healthy mother, you have to have a support mother. And so, and then of course, like, women being able to come together. I'm doing that here in my community, where I'm like, single moms, how, growing our own food again together, and then sharing that together, and the jobs that we can do where we can have, you know, children together, and the mothers in like a collaboration in a community,
Yeah.
and having the men be like, yes, look at what our women are doing,
Yeah.
can we help? And you know, like we'd always, you know, talk about how the men are so great with the play aspect too, right? Like
Yeah.
more of that play, and for, you know, and then, you know, you said you bring up the bullying, and that's such a huge part. And for,
Mm-hmm.
you know, for men to be able to see bullying and stand up and be like, you know, support the women and the girls
Yeah.
in that way is so huge as well. Yeah.
I really believe that if we do this, if we stand beside shoulder to shoulder with our women, if we support our women to step into their authenticity, it will have a worldwide effect. It will change everything because, like you said, women are natural nurturers. They are the mothers. They are the caregivers. And most women are so caught up in providing for everyone else, they
Mhm.
deplete themselves. They put themselves on the back burner. So if we give them the support that they need, think of how all these women can flourish. And then when all of these women flourish, it has a ripple effect throughout the world and the world will change. I wholeheartedly believe that.
So
Yeah.
in many societies, there were where it wasn't a patriarchy. So in our modern society, we just think that's the way it's always been, but it's not the case,
Mm.
right? And
No.
even in our nation of Canada, there are many traditionally matriarchal
Yeah.
societies, First Nations. But
Yes.
before, you know, kind of the patriarchy swept the world, there were many societies that did honor and understand that, and they were rooted in that because it's
Mm-hmm.
just common sense, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
common sense. And so,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and something that the listeners can reflect on is, you know, the power of a circle. I think that women's circles
Yes.
Mhm.
can build a whole community, and a powerful women's circle where those competition mindsets start to lessen because everyone sees the humanness of each other, the
Mm-hmm.
relatability, and you know, seeing how another person overcame something in their own way, in their own wording, in their own reflections, you know, everyone supporting each other. That fire then grows because women are the fire in the community, right? And men are the fire pit, and both are really
Yeah.
important. But we must support that fire in a really meaningful way, and it will heal the world. So I really appreciate that you see that. And Kaya, like, I love how boisterous you are and really landing it to your relationship with your daughter. You know, because you have lacked somewhat of a fire pit, you know, in your world. And um do you want to share a bit about that, like how
I
that
I just
Mhm.
I think, I really believe that we have, as a society, I think we've lost sight of what community is and the importance of it. I really do. I think back to when I was a kid and, my mom would babysit a bunch of kids from the neighborhood. That's what we did. Parents dropped their kids off with their neighbors if they had to go run errands or they had to go to work or whatever the case was. Nowadays, you look out into the neighborhoods, you walk around, people don't even look at each other, much less support each other. If we all came together in our communities individually and supported each other, how different would things be? It would be so powerful.
Well, and I think this is the thing I've been talking about a lot of people too lately, is that there's so much like, wow, the men are going out and working and they're bringing home the money and they're doing this, and us women, like, do you know how many people I helped today in my community? Do you know how, do you know how many people I just cooked for, or I ran around and
Yeah.
drove someone somewhere, or I'm looking after someone's kids? And that to
Yeah.
be honored as like work, right? I mean, how many women,
Yeah.
as the homemakers, being like, yeah, that's great that you went out today and you didn't have did your job, but like, what did I do
Mm-hmm.
today, right? And
Yeah.
that being like in an egalitarian, like, an egalitarian system, like a system of equality, where we're like,
Yes.
yes, look at what you've done today, and just empowering that nurturing, and that, like, who wants to come home to a messy house? Who wants to come home to like no food there, or like
Mm-hmm.
children that have not been looked after all day? Like, nobody does. And we
Yeah.
need to come back to more of that, like, importance of all of our roles and them being all equally important, right? And then
Yes.
feeling like, yeah, I'm still manly because, even though I support all these women, and like, and then, yeah, And just even switching roles too, right? Like some of the
Yeah.
men being like, I'm going to stay home and, you know,
Well,
go out.
it's funny you say that because my wife goes out to work. She leaves the house to go to work every day. She's the breadwinner. I'll be completely honest. She's the breadwinner, and I'm okay with that. I stay home. I do the cooking. I do the cleaning, and I'm okay with that. I don't mind that. This morning I cleaned the house this morning. I do all the cooking. I do all the cleaning. I take the dog out. I do all that stuff, and I don't care. But it's funny. I was just thinking about what you were saying, and it brought up a thought about an interview that I did with a woman, and she helps women who are in their later stages of their career. If they've switched careers or whatever, she helps them build resumes and all of these things. And she said, when we look at women, when women discount themselves, the skill sets they've had in terms of raising children, going on school trips with the kids, organizing things for school trips. She said, I tell the women, those are skill sets. You can use those on your resume to help you get a job. Those are things that you have done in your life. They matter. They're important. And women forget about all of those things. They discount them as, oh, that's just what I do.
Well, and I think too, this is as like Auroara and I are both Reiki practitioners, and like the understanding of energy, right? Like when you have, oh my God, I've had so many friends that come around like 5 kids. If I've got 5 kids over and they're like, oh my God, that was so exhausting. How do you even deal with that? Like just on an energy place, right? Of like how much we are sharing of our heart and like love and attention. Like not everyone at a job is like pouring their love and their attention to all people, right? But as women and mothers, and when we're doing that, it's like it's exhausting, like caring for all these people and managing all of these different energies all the time. And that to be seen as like something you can put on your resume is like amazing. Like
It is. It's true though. But you got to admit, women do discount all of that stuff. They don't think about that stuff as skill sets, but it is a skill set. 100%. But back to what you're saying about the community, we need to get back to that. We've lost it. I think, I really believe we've lost that sense of community, and everybody, male, female, human beings, we need community. We need connection with each other. That's what we're all craving right now is connection. And that's the important thing. I believe that community and connection are the foundation. Relationships are the foundation for everything, for business, for life, for everything. You have to have that foundation.
Yeah, well, it comes back to, I feel like, this society where it's like, okay, why are we here as energy beings, as souls in these vessels? Are we here just to what? Like who like got the biggest, house? Who's got the biggest money, the most money? No, it's like who enjoyed the community that they have, the people, right? Like people aren't going to talk about like someone's house. We always say that, right? We're going to talk about how they impacted someone's life, right? It's more about that, right? Which does come back down to, how are you in your community? What are you impacting? What are you giving? And you talked about how much you're giving, to the community, women that you have. And it's like, that's something that's impactful. It's not like how much money you made and then you win and then you die. Like,
no, we're all here we're all here, I believe, two big things. And one of them is we all come here with a gift or gifts, and it's our responsibility and our duty to share those gifts with the world. It's not for you, it's for the world. Secondly, we are all here to support each other, to cheerlead each other, to lift each other up. There's more than enough to go around for everybody. I don't care. Now we're speaking specifically about work and business. There is more than enough work, whatever industry you're in. I don't care what it is. There's more than enough to go around. There's no need for competition. We don't need that. There's absolutely no need for it. Yes, exactly.
So how you feel that you have lacked the fire pit for yourself. I mean, with Sasha passing away, but also, just you have gone on this big journey as being a single mom, but like just the ripple effect of how that's impacted you not having that fire pit.
Oh my God, it was so massive. Like I found myself during like the 2020 COVID, like I had nobody. Like my family was like, I'm done with you. And women were like, I had men and women that really like didn't support me in any way. I had women that, you talk about the competition, like where and that's followed me for a long time. I was bullied in elementary school and through life too, and my children. But I mean, I've never felt so alone in my life, and I felt like this is how people die, like without community. Like as a mom, like I've heard people be like, oh, you know, I had no money and I was homeless once. And I'm like, yeah, but they were men that were like, and I'm like, a single mom, like to have a child and not have community and not have people that are compassionate towards your situation. Like I think I was seen much as like a privileged, you know, white woman that, you know, why can't you just go and, you know, find a man, you know? And it's like, you know, and I just was so like, where's my circle of women? And I mean, I didn't even think of like a circle of men, which, you know,
Yeah.
it's beautiful that you have, because it would just be like that, oh, rescue you. And, you know, I've had men be like, oh, you're choosing to be a single mom. I'm like, choosing to be a single mom? Does any woman choose to be a single mom?
Yeah.
Um, So no, like, I mean, I've wanted to have women's circles for so long. I have felt it's so strange where I, you know, had a product or something that I made and be like, oh, like, where's my friends that are gonna, you know, buy that, you know, product that I have or that gift that I have to share? Like, no, I'm not gonna buy from you. I'm not gonna help you. Like, I've been through that for so long of like, you know, not wanting to raise up, you know, each other in a community with women. And it's like the crabs in the bucket too, right? Like all the
Yeah.
of, you know, yeah, and then that lack and just the ingrained competition, you know, for a man, you know, it seems to.
So, what about the tangible aspects of support that a person needs when raising a child, right? Like, so as you're going, you're talking about the women supporting women, but what about the men supporting, or the masculine aspect supporting
see,
you?
I personally, like, because I find in my own experiences, it's like the men, this rescuing, like it's more of like this, like, and it's about, it's it hasn't been about friendship. Like I've always had a hard time with a man really honestly just being my friend without wanting something back, like that selflessness, right? Like and it on to me it's always come back to, well, you're going to be, you know, what are you going to do for me? And it becomes like a sexual thing, to be honest. Like and so it was never, or their wife or their girlfriend is like, I can't help you because my wife or girlfriend thinks that I want to be with you or something. And so I never have seen it as men helping me in that way, because I've been like, well, they're going to want to be, you know, my boyfriend, or I have to, you know, serve them in some way. And it's always going to be that. And then, you know, I've got a lot of stuff with my mom that has been working through, that I see patterns of the way women relate to me as well. So you know, I had a single mom living with me with 3 kids last year for 6 months. And I was just like, holy shit. Like, how do you even do this without community of other women, you know? And so that's what I'm still trying to grow here, because too I was with none of the women that I was working around and trying to build something with at the time when I was homeless and broke, they um the women weren't, some of them, a lot of them weren't moms, so they had no idea what I was going through. Like I definitely was like, I have to be with other moms to understand. But then when I was with other moms, it was like, we need a dude around here to like help us with the kids, to play with them. So
Well, and I mean, you're saying you needed more women, but the that fact that you couldn't have the masculine for varying reasons, right? Like the fact that it has to be only women, and so much is always carried on women's shoulders, so
well,
much.
yeah, I mean,
And
I
and those aspects should be worked through, or could be worked through, if we want healthy communities again, whether it's hypersexualization, seeing women as sex objects and and nothing more. Being able to work through these with emotional intelligence, right? Some of them might be have sources of religious influence, of like beliefs of monogamy or sanctity of
Mhm.
marriage. You can't even spend time alone with another woman. There's certain beliefs that could come into play
what
too.
I think too,
But
friendship. Like,
really,
this is
for
what
us
I've
to
been
work
just working
together.
on with
And
someone, a man in my
we're
community.
such a hypersexualized society, and yet so stifled in actually talking about the aspects of sexuality that we need to be talking about, the facts of the, the source of that always gets hidden. So we suppress one aspect and overinflate one, and then we have discordance in that area. So if people didn't see you as a sexual being, right, or men didn't see you as a sexual being, you'd have more masculine support just because they are there because they care, right?
Yeah.
And so men that care, I mean, here's Brad who does boudoir photo shoots, but then you're seeing women as their soul shining. And of course, also, and every human is a sexual being. Like, that's just a
Of
fact.
course, of course.
We are all sexual beings.
Yeah.
But that's not all we are. But because
No.
we have this lack of emotional intelligence sometimes that's running through, I think that people see in that pie, that faction, that glimpse of that. And I mean lust is a reality that someone might feel. So it's like, I don't want my husband to have lust if he's hanging out with you. What if he's carrying your firewood or bringing you firewood because he wants to get something from you, and then I don't know about that. Well, then, like, betrayals are real in many women's lineages, right?
Yeah.
That's a genetic
Mm-hmm.
pain. That pain of betrayal or possibility of betrayal is real. And so but that shouldn't mean that you're left alone, right? So it's complex.
No.
It's so complex because I too, like, I felt right away where I was like, well, what can I do? Is I can clean, like, clean someone's home and make that a beautiful place, like clean and clear, and then have a meal ready for somebody. And then it was always like this, and that's not honored. Like, I just want to say that that's not honored. I feel like women cleaning, is not a job that is honored, as something that is really important, in society. And so, but then it was like, I'd meet all these men and women that were like, oh, that's how the woman got in here, is she needed a home, so she cleaned the house, and then we started sleeping together, and that was kind of like her survival thing. And that's where, I had men being like, well, you're gonna clean my house, but are you gonna do it topless? And I would just be like, what? Like, there was just so much of that I actually ran into the forest. I was like, because I couldn't imagine. And boudoir, I used to do a lot of modeling and that stuff in that way, and that's like a whole other level too of being taken seriously if you are doing good photos in as a woman in your underwear. Like, what are you using that for? Why do you need that? And that's and then even just having a partner, like, I don't know if you with your wife, to have like, I'm this man that's taking pictures of these beautiful women. I think what's really missing, and what I'm finding, is actual, like, friendship, in the way of like, I'm gonna bring you firewood, and this woman's gonna cook for me to help, to say thank you, and that's good. There's nothing more than that. That's just what it is.
Yeah, for sure.
It would be nice if that was just what it was, right? Like, nice. And women need to know and feel that, I think, as they're developing too. Like, they need to know that this person is doing it because they care, not because they want something.
With the photography aspect, I think about this, and I mean, obviously my clients wouldn't come to me if they weren't comfortable with me being a male and photographing them. But when I think about it, it's like, I don't even have time to sexualize. Like, that never even enters my mind. When I'm in a session photographing, I'm about the lighting, the angles, and creating beautiful art and showing this woman who she truly is. That thought never even enters my mind. I don't ever think about that. That never crosses my mind. I'm focused on producing beautiful art for this woman so that she feels good about herself. That's it. Period.
Yeah. And I think that men have that capacity, and they do all the time. But I think it's sometimes the offset ones that kind of make it this marred place for girls to feel safe. And then
I've heard stories, though, of women who have had shoots with men and it's turned horribly bad. And so, I mean, there aren't when we compare with the photography piece of it, women photographers versus male photographers in this genre, there are far fewer men doing it. And I think that some men are scared to do it because
Mhm.
they don't think they'll get business, or they don't feel comfortable. I don't know what the reasons may be, but I'm just in it to show women who they truly are. I want to give them that gift. And it is a beautiful gift. And I do know other male photographers who are in this business, in this genre, and they're of the same mind. So the men are out there for sure. But with me, it starts with establishing trust right from the moment of contact with that woman. Like
Mhm.
right from the first phone call that I have with that woman, I go through a pre-shoot consult. I ask them questions to get to know a little bit about them. Why do you want to do a shoot? And I also stress very importantly that boudoir, yes, when people hear boudoir, they think lingerie. But for me, it's not about that. If you don't want to wear lingerie, I could care less. You could wear whatever the fuck you want. You could wear jeans and a t-shirt for all I care. It's about capturing you in your true beauty and your true essence, and helping to boost your confidence, to show you, like I said, to show you yourself in a light that you don't normally get to see yourself in. So if
Mhm.
that's wearing jeans and a t-shirt, I don't care. You don't have to wear lingerie. And I always tell all my clients that you don't have to. It's okay. You can wear whatever makes you feel good, whatever makes you feel strong, whatever makes you feel beautiful, whatever makes you feel sexy. That's what you wear. I don't care if it's lingerie or jeans and a t-shirt. I could care less.
Yeah, and I don't think enough people understand how powerful that is of a healing, to be able to be vulnerable in
Mm-hmm.
that way with, especially even a man that is there shooting that. Like there's so
Mm-hmm.
many layers that I can see that come off of
Yeah.
that, of the beauty that shines through from that, and that trust, right? That
Yeah.
trust. You can
I
rewatch.
bought my mom a boudoir shoot for her birthday a few years back, and
Yeah.
the photos are so stunning. She did
And there you
amazing.
go.
She's just gorgeous. And
That's what it is,
and
right?
it was medicine for me to gift that to
Hmm.
her because I
Yeah.
knew there was a part of her that lay dormant for a while, right? And
Yeah.
to re-feel that feeling again and all of that. That's medicine for a woman. Like
Yeah, for sure.
it is such important healing that when women reignite that, if it has been dormant, some aren't, they're like, I got the flames that shoot, right? But for some it is really dormant,
Actually, I have to say, yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Aurora. My
or
apologies.
it's coded in shame or sexual trauma, right? Like many women, or domestic violence, if they've been through,
Hmm.
it's not, it's, if I'm in my
Hmm.
essence, someone will come and want to contain it again or take it again, right? So oftentimes I
Yeah.
think that that's the case as well. But like young girls, they start to develop a sense of who they are as a sexual being. And I know that my daughter
Hmm.
drastically changed like her perception when she moved from the Okanagan to a northern community. She started wearing more baggy clothes, but it was a
Yeah.
response to kind of how she felt in the environment. And
Hmm.
that that is valid, right? Like
Yeah.
women's feelings, if they aren't feeling safe, it's for a reason, and that
Yep.
responsibility is actually not on them. That responsibility is on, us having a safe and sacred communities.
For sure. For sure. And like I said, it's about creating that comfortability, that space to know that it's okay. I mean, like I said, the trust gets established right from the first call, and keeping that line of communication, for me, keeping that line of communication open with my clients from the moment of contact up until the shoot. I tell you can contact if you have questions, or let's call me. I'm open to helping and
My
guiding and
mom, her subconscious started like, she started getting these thoughts that she didn't
mhm.
expect, these fears, these
Yeah,
worries, these memories, even
of
like
course. Yeah.
just knowing the boudoir shoot was approaching.
Yeah, yeah, and most of the women that come into the studio have never been in front of a camera before. So
Mm.
they're uncomfortable, and that's completely understandable. But that's the other thing, is creating an environment where it is comfortable. I have never ever, when I've done a shoot, had just me and my client in the studio alone. I always have my makeup artist there with me. She stays for the entire session, because I want that level of comfortability for my clients. And then it also loosens things up in terms of we add humor into it. Like we're constantly talking. It's almost like, as a boudoir photographer, part psychologist, part therapist, because it opens up that lane of communication for whatever we're talking about. And when you have those conversations, it just cuts through the air and cuts away all the tension and all the nervousness. And that's important, is that I want my client to feel incredibly comfortable when they're there. If they're not comfortable, it will, I can tell you, I guarantee you, it will come across in the images. They will see, whoever's looking at those images will see that she's not comfortable.
Yeah.
And so keeping the lines of communication open during the shoot, laughter, keeping it fun, keeping it light, that's what it's about. And that comfort level.
And then those things
so
that
having
come
my
up are
makeup artist there is
cleansed
a huge piece of
because
that too. And she
the
helps me.
tensions
She helps me move my
increase,
gear
and then you
around, and
move
we
through
have
the
fun.
tension,
It's a
and
great.
Then you feel that freedom.
Yeah.
There's
it's
a
amazing.
Yeah, and then back to the podcast, like I just think, like with the three of us being like, we want the world to have a little bit more feminine. Like it's like, because it's always been history, her story, right? Her story, right?
Yeah.
So just like, it's so empowering for more women to be like, you want to hear what my story is? You want to hear what I've been through? That's just, I love the two together, right? Like so much.
Yeah.
I like that they can then be on your podcast and share their story if it
I want to share my story.
Sure. Yeah. I'm always looking for guests. I think I want to help in as many women as I possibly can share their stories with the world, because everyone, I don't care who you are, male or female. I mean, obviously the focus of my podcast is women, but we all have a story that needs to be shared. And I guarantee you, at least one person out there will benefit from your story. That's
the thing, right? We are all storytellers. Like we're experiencing this human experience, and it's like, it's all about like learning that when you are around someone that you hear them tell your story and they're like, oh, I've been through that. And then you have to be like, you went through that too, and you survived that. And like, what did you do? Like, that is bigger than any book, you could read sometimes, where you just like, just hearing someone else has been through something. Like when I was going through the hardest time in my life, I was reading stories of other people that had been through stuff. And I was like, well, if you went through that and you survived, I can do it too. It's so big, and that no one has, like, everyone has a story, and everyone's important in that way. Yeah,
for sure. And we need to share those stories. And when people do start sharing their stories, like Auroara, you were talking about the circles. Circles were used to story tell. That was a big part of it. And so when you when you tell your story in a setting like that, it gives others permission to tell their stories and share their stories. It's a permission slip. Once one person starts, then others feel more comfortable enough to get up and share their story too. So that not only are you sharing your story to get it out of you, but you're also helping others by sharing your story, so that maybe they don't have to go through similar struggles. If they haven't gone through something like you have, you can give them, through sharing your story, that gives them knowledge as to what they can do to avoid those things possibly, or they've been through a similar thing and they know it's okay to stand up and share it, and they're not alone. Because that's another piece of it, is that people think at times that they're the only ones going through that. No one else could possibly know how it feels, but there are others out there who do. So when you share your story, it also lets other people know that, hey, Aurora's gone through that too.
Well, Simply Sacred podcast is definitely built on, inspiring healing journey is possible. And then weaving in so many truth tellers and people who are doing amazing work with healing, with, the ways that they do healing, because it's a beautiful spectrum. There's so many ways to heal, and everyone has a story. Everyone has a story of overcoming, and there are different parts of that story. Everyone has a dragon within, to face. And it's always inside, and that's why it's about the inner journey. The environments outside allow us to navigate and move through it, but it's really inner work. And podcasts are great mediums in order, to help the listener explore, you know, their own inner world, their own, where are they at with their self-image, you know, like where are they at
Yeah.
with their sense of beauty, where are they at with their sense of freedom, where, what kinds of things are coming up with that topic. You know, I bet half of the listeners are going to be, if they're women, they'll be intrigued to, you know, go and find a, would I do a photo shoot? Oh wow, what's in my area, you know? And even just that little seed planting, what could that come up for me? Or no, I
Yeah.
wouldn't do that. I don't need that to heal. Maybe I can just, you know, be on a platform and sing or whatever it is, right? Like I feel that people know themselves, and all we do is to show a lighthouse in that fog where we kind of have a, you know, we have a disconnected society that's built off of, well, actually, go buy makeup because you're not beautiful enough. Well, actually, you know, that's built on disconnection. If you're disconnected from yourself, then you need something outside of you to feel better. But really, the source of feeling better is always going to be internally. And yeah, I mean, I'm going to get my hair done today, and I know it's going to make me feel great because I really feel I need that, you know, and it's a freshening. So those are fun activities, but really at the core level, we have our own self-image, you know, built within us. So like oftentimes, sometimes I don't have time to get my hair done because I do just so many things, but that isn't my sense of self-worth. Like my image is not my sense of self-worth, like it is trained and taught for so many. So I think that image is important though, because it is our projection of who we are out to the world. It's our prop. We wear props, right? Like, you know, the big dangly earrings. I love those. Those are like props of, you know, I am bedazzled. And I went through a whole phase where I'm like, the bigger the better.
Yeah. J-Lo, man. I was like, yeah, just throw on earrings and you're like, I'm put together.
Exactly. Well, and it's fun, right? And it makes you feel fun. And I have so many looks throughout my life. Like people bump into me in all stages of life. I've had so many different looks. And I think that we are a canvas. So there's such a sacred art to adorning yourself. It just depends where it's coming from, right? Like that heart-centered place of I love myself and, right? Not I'm shameful being and now I need to do this, or, you know, not, oh, I won't be wanted, so I'm going to go do this, right? Like I love myself and then do whatever the heck you want.
Do you I always wonder, because women, like, it's so normal for us, like we can go out and be like, I don't feel beautiful today, so I'm gonna go get makeup, I'm gonna go do my hair, I'm gonna go put some earrings on, whatever. What do men, right? Like how many men do you know, like they're like, I don't feel very good, what they can do? Like we have so many more options, right?
I like that question.
You know, yeah, like with the men, like how do they deal with like their self-love in that way of like, I look like shit today, what can I do?
Well, we don't have a lot of options, do we?
No,
Especially me with no hair. Right,
that's a whole other level of work that you guys do that women, a lot of us avoid, because we're just like, well, no, it's okay, I'll just do this, I'll put this mask on today, get my hair done, and I'm fine, right? But men have to walk around being like, oh fuck, man, like no, everyone can tell I look like shit and feel like shit today.
Yeah, I mean, I've had times where I don't feel good about myself, and it's just, I think, taking the time to reflect and go inward and appreciate yourself. And again, you can't avoid it. It's community, or surrounding yourself with people who will be there when you do have those days to lift you up, because we can't as men do very much. We go to the gym, or we can go for a walk or things like that, but in terms of our appearance, sure, we can maybe shave,
body oil.
Maybe men just need to be doing that more. Maybe that's what's wrong, is that men need to start being like, you know what, I'm just gonna put on some mascara today and then my eyes, I'll look more awake, right? Or like, I'm just gonna put some feathers or something in my hair and it's gonna distract from everything else. Like maybe that's what men are missing too, right? Like
throw a baseball cap on.
Right? Like, I don't know, just like a little bit more play in that way of like with their body, to be like, yeah man, I'm like here to play. Because I feel like a lot of times it's like, if I just make more money, then it's going to be fine because I'll just have all this money and then everyone will love me. No,
it's not.
Right? But that's really, I feel like what men go to is like, okay, to make myself feel better, I just have to have more money and then people will love me, instead of being like, I'm just going to be make myself like look better. Because I mean, women right now, like it's like anyone can be beautiful. I'm like, there's just like, you know, you can do anything,
Well,
surgery.
everyone is beautiful. I mean, you
Well,
don't,
everyone,
I don't
yes,
know, but
they are.
those men who go toward or gravitate towards that making more money, they haven't done the work. They need to do the
No.
work. They need to do the self work, right? So, I mean, I with the women that I photograph, even, I mean, I tell them because as part of my questionnaire, I ask them why they're doing the shoot, and a lot of women I've found will say, "I'm doing it for my partner." And it's like, and I stop them right there, and I'm like, "That's great that you want to do that for your partner, but
Mhm.
it's not about that. It's about you." The images, honestly, I even tell the images are just a byproduct. That's not even the important piece of this. The important piece of this is the experience, you stepping into your authenticity, you stepping into your confidence and your beauty. It's there. We're going to bring it out through you standing in front of the camera. I'm going to help you bring that out, and you're going to see how beautiful you are. But so many women say, I'm doing this for my partner. It's like,
Mhm.
no, you're not doing it for your partner. Sure, you can gift them the images. Absolutely, of course. But it's not about the images that we're creating. It's about the experience that you're going to have at the session. The images are a byproduct of that. That's
That's it.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Selling an experience. Yeah, the experience. I love it.
Mm.
So do men have that same need? Like, because we have different hormones, right? Like, do they really have that same need to be like, I want to adorn my canvas? You know, I just don't know if they naturally have that same need due to we're wired
I don't.
differently.
I don't.
Yeah, like I think we're wired different, so
Hmm.
it does the same thing doesn't always, apply. And so,
No.
um, I think it's interesting though, like men's version of what is their self-love journey can really be articulated by men. We should start a woman-led, men-only
Man.
podcast in
Yeah,
Captain
we could.
Balance.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. There's an idea.
Yeah,
Sure.
no, I'm just
Why
kidding.
not?
Well, someone could for sure.
Yeah, someone
Yeah.
could. Hmm. Someone out there should.
Yeah.
Maybe I should start one just for men as well.
Well,
Yeah.
because I will say I find there's like less like for dancing, like I feel like there's so many more men need to dance and feel comfortable dancing and they don't, right? Like girls
No.
will all be like, "Yeah, we're going out dancing." How many guys are like, "Yeah, we're going out dancing with the boys, man." Like
No, that doesn't
They're
happen.
going on hunting trips or fishing trips.
but dancing is like a free like expression of themselves and I don't feel like they do that enough. Like I feel like there's some like switching of this we need to do a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, maybe
There's
their
some
version
changes
of
that need to happen.
expressing themselves is like, what's their version of it though? Because we can't take our lens and project it what it could be.
My version of expressing myself is creativity through
Mhm.
photography, through um, painting, through art. That's how I express myself, is creativity.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So body movement, do you have a body movement practice, Brad?
I have what I call an MMJ practice. So it's movement, which is getting out for a walk, meditation, and
Mm-hmm.
journaling.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
That's my practice. Although I have to be honest, I have fallen off of that, and it's been a while, and I need to get back to it. So that's where I've got to come in for myself with the self discipline.
Mhm.
But yeah, last year, I mean, through the summer and into the fall, I was doing that faithfully every day. I'd get up at like 5 a.m, go for a walk, come back, take a shower, meditate, journal, and then start my day every morning.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't break that ritual?
Oh, I did later in the year, yeah, and I haven't gotten back to it yet. I need to
Yeah.
get back to
Yeah,
it.
Okay.
yeah.
And it's
Reminder.
yes, you are. You are for sure. It's harder though in the winter months here. I don't want to get up at 5 a.m. and go for a walk
No.
in the cold and the dark. And I know that once the
Mm-hmm.
sun is up a little earlier and it warms up, I will be right back on it. But
Okay, so that's why I'm sorry, I still feel like this is something we all did together. We would be by a fire storytelling and we would dance, and that's how we'd stay warm. We would stay warm by dancing, all the men and the women in the winter, okay? Because even drumming, right? You're like, that's
yeah,
fucking exercise, man. When you're drumming, it's
yeah.
like, holy shit.
For sure, for sure. So I will get back to it though, definitely, because you know, I honestly, having done it for that extended period of time, when I stopped, I felt it. I could feel that I need to get
Mhm.
back to it, that something was missing. So it's there, I know, and I need to get back to it for sure,
Mm.
and I will.
Well, I'm impressed when people can stick to their morning rituals. And I had this really set. I got my morning ritual. No, I didn't stick to it long enough. I feel like it's an impressive discipline. And if you could do your morning ritual, like, the rest of the day is a nice. It's just, it seals, right? Like it
Yeah.
comes.
Yeah, it's a
How you
And
nice flow.
something I'm working towards this year. So whatever
There
barriers
you
I
go.
have, it's even because even if you can accomplish just that, then you are really, really in a solid space.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. I
Well,
agree
that's
that
that's like
having that basis.
one bonus as a single mom is that I love my morning rituals. No one can get in my way because it's the only time I have peace. Because in the morning is when you have energy, right? Like the end of the day, I'm
Hmm.
just like, oh fuck, like I got to give you a massage. I'm just gonna fall asleep in your bed. Like how many moms are just like, yeah, I just fall asleep with the kid, right? Like, but in the morning, I'm like, fuck. If I don't get up at my 5 a.m., I'm like, oh fuck. If I get up when she gets up, I'm like, oh my god, like I'm not gonna have any alone time today, you know. So it's a
Yeah, for
bonus of being a
sure.
single mom. If you can get up in the morning, you're just like, yes.
Yeah. You have that time for yourself. That's a lot. That's a common thing I hear among the women that I interview, is that they do get up extra early so that they do have that time to themselves
Mm,
before everyone else in the house gets
yeah.
up. They make sure they get that hour or whatever it is to themselves.
Hmm.
It's important.
I'm so lucky to be a single mom.
I loved being a single mom. I really did. If you have your needs met and you get to just spend time with them, it's amazing. I loved being a young mom too. Okay, so I think that we can round it down now, and thank you for coming on, Brad, and sharing your wisdom, your experience, your story, the work that you're doing to help ignite and inspire others who may be just starting their healing journey. We don't know what seed someone needs to hear, and in
Yep.
this hour, hopefully many seeds could have been planted in people's own unique ways. And if you want to reach out to Brad, then I know he has Empowerography Podcast and empowerographypodcast.com. Is that right?